Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend and did a lot of great things. And once again, belated Happy Father's Day to everybody out there. Um, I basically relaxed, but yeah, it was a good time. So, anyways, we got a lot to get to. So news that just dropped this morning in the last, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to everything going on around the world. And so we got some stuff that is going to be looking forward toward the future. Okay, so that's all out of the way. So breaking news. This happened within, no joke, the last half hour. You guys can go. And at first, I thought it was kind of a joke, and you'll see why in a minute. So there's going to be a movie coming out in October, coinciding with a video game. I love Spider-Man. I love everything about Spider-Man. He's been one of the most popular superheroes since 2018, the Infinity War and everything else. So, as everybody may or may not know, Craven is going to be coming to theaters in October, and it's one of those things where you go, Craven, who the hell is Craven? Right. That's the thing. Okay. Craven is one of those characters that is in the Sony Spider-Man universe that nobody really knows. I mean, they know Doctor Octopus and Green Goblin and, you know, even Electro and everything else, but they don't know who Craven is. So we got our first look at it at CinemaCon back in March. And so the trailer just was leaked online within the last hour. Okay. Now, this stars, as the title indicates, Aaron Taylor Johnson. And it actually stars Russell Crowe, believe it or not. Yes, that two-time Academy Award winning Russell Crowe from A Beautiful Mind and Gladiator. Um, so, on the surface, this looks horrible. Horrible. And Kevin off the top says Sony Pictures will have a better year than Paramount. Well, that's yet to be seen, Kevin. I hope so, but I don't think this will do them any good, to be frank. I mean, so we actually have a story about a Paramount picture coming up fairly recently. But this movie, on the surface, looks horrible. So it's about basically a man, okay, who nearly gets mauled by, killed by a lion, and Russell Crowe is his father, and he basically develops powers, psychic powers, to control animals. And as I said, Russell Crowe's in it, and Aaron Taylor, and it's so there's a formula to every single trailer ever made. Okay, even going back from the beginning of time, and one of the little things is that in the last 15 seconds, you have what I call the money shot. Okay. Whether it's that shot, that it's that excitement shot, it's the shot that ends it, that goes, yes, I want to see this. And whether it's Spider Man flipping over Captain America in Civil War, or pick any trailer you want. Okay. That being said, the end of this trailer, Kevin says Warner Brothers needed to come back. Yeah, you're right. They really do. I'm going to get to that story in just a minute, actually. But, it basically what ended up happening was so Rhino got teased. And if you watch the trailer, you guys can go watch it on YouTube for free right now, obviously. There are a couple little Easter eggs if you notice them. And I have no idea where this is going. I think this could be right up there with a Morbius. I really do. And I because it's a dark story, okay? We don't know whoever the enemy is, it's not going to be good. Anyways, I just thought I'd put that out there because it's one of those things where what I would say is this, and look, I could be totally wrong, but you have to look at Sony's track record, right? So, anyways, Guys, what do you think of the Craven trailer? Do you think that this is something you'd want to go see? Or would you think this is going to be just as bad as Morbius? Will you pass on this, or will you actually go see this in October? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so Antonios comes in and says, after Morbius, I feel like I'm kind of over with this universe. However, I'll give it a chance. It might be good. Who knows? The Venom films are quite fun, in my opinion. Yeah, I love Venom. I love Venom. Hey, Dad, how are you? Nice. So I'll get to that comment in just a minute, actually. Look, I love Venom. I think Venom is it's a fun movie. Okay. It's one of those it has that mixture of comedy and drama with his love interest and Michelle Williams and everything else. Hell, I even like Venom versus Carnage. Okay. It was 90 minutes. It was nonstop action. It was good stuff, but Morbius just was horrible. Um, there are characters out there that sometimes they don't need to have movies made, and I think this is one of them. And to your point, Antonius, I don't know what they're thinking. Okay, now I don't know if everybody knows this. So Spider-Man 2, okay, which won Game of the Year back in I think 2019, they're actually making a sequel. So that is supposed to be released 1 week from when the film was being released. I'm wondering if they won't either A, push that up, or B, because right now, if they don't, there's going to be something really, really bad about this. I don't think sales will do as well as the Insomniac thinks. He says, what's up, Dave? Seeing the trailer now, I'm kind of hyped about Craven. Yeah, I mean, right on. Right on, Dad. I mean, I think that it's one of those things where I think that this is going to be a wait and see. I got to be honest. The first trailer for me didn't do anything. I got to be honest. And after Morbius, what Antonio was just saying, I don't know how this is going to do. And I mean, look, it may be a ton of fun, but after Morbius, I'm really, really worried about it. Antonio says Morbius wasted Michael Keaton quite badly too. One of the worst and dumbest post-credit scenes. Yeah, I mean, I never saw Morbius, so I can't really attest to that. But yeah, I wasn't going to waste my time. So let's move on. So, as you know, Kevin was making mention of Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers had this little film come out. And by the way, guys, I actually put up the spoiler cast this morning. It is now up there for your viewing pleasure. But Warner Brothers came out with this little picture. And this little picture had been in the works for almost 3 years. Okay. This was supposed to come out right around 2019, 2020. And I'm talking about The Flash. Now, this is just one of those things where you go, okay. I had always made mention that I thought the second Shazam film was going to be a litmus test for The Flash. The Flash on Friday and this weekend, and the final numbers, I'll get to the final numbers in a minute, just did not do what Warner Brothers did. And I think it happened for a couple of reasons. Okay. And I made this point in the spoiler cast as well. Number one, you had no marketing for this. It's not like you could go on a late night talk show and show clips and get people excited for it. Okay. Number two, you had an embattled star in Ezra Miller who hadn't said word one, who could do any press about this. Okay. Number three, you had a lot, and let's call it what it is, a lot of fan screenings. And what ended up happening was that it really hurt it a lot. So let me get to the article, okay? So this comes to us from the THR, the Hollywood Reporter, and basically talks about the Flash and Elemental and basically got iced. Now, I actually had read this, but anybody who was with me the other day knows. Okay, ugh. So such a refrain around Hollywood is a week. It the opening weekend circulated for The Flash and Elemental. Starring Ezra Miller, it actually ended up for $55.7 million for the 3 days and $64 million for the 4 days. Okay, so final numbers will be tallied on Tuesday. The Flash had hoped for a 3-day start of at least $70 million, so it comes in ahead of disappointing titles such as Black Adam, which gained $67 million in the first 3 days. Overseas, the superhero tentpole also faced challenges. It opened to only $72 million from 79 markets, including a dismal $13.8 million in China, with a global opening north of $130 million through Sunday. The studio's leadership had been hyping this up for months, including James Gunn and others. Discovery CEO David Zaslav proclaiming that it was one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. Many critics don't agree with the assessment. The pick currently has a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. A bigger problem, it got a B cinema score compared to A for Elemental. Box office pundits are divided whether Miller's off-screen woes are impacting the film's performance. They were arrested in 2022 multiple times for several controversies, culminating in the actor issuing a statement, apologizing for their behavior and saying that they would receive, quote, he was getting care for, quote, mental health issues, end quote. Miller walked the red carpet on Monday doing publicity. In the Andy Muschietti film, he plays dual roles. They play dual roles as Barry Allen stars Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, who makes a cameo, and Sasha Calle as Supergirl. Michael Shannon reprises his role as General Zod from the 2013 Man of Steel. Now, it goes on to say that Elemental earned an estimated $29.6 million for the 3 days, the lowest weekend debut ever outside of Toy Story, which started at 29.1. But then again, you have to remember, Toy Story was one of the very first pictures from Pixar. So they didn't know how that was going to do. Okay. So they're 20 years in almost. Now that was adjusted for inflation. Elemental earned another $17 million from its first 17 markets, including beating The Flash in South Korea for $3.2 million. And the movie stumbled to China for 5.2. So let's talk about this, because actually I want to get to this comment here by Dad. Said, I'm in the minority who actually liked Morbius. Jared Leto is still king. Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is, Leto, he was okay as a Joker. And you probably are in the minority, and that's great. I'm really glad you enjoyed that film. It's one of those things where, look, I think, and I say it all the time, right? Guys, film is subjective. So I think that it's really, you liking Morbius is fantastic. I mean, it will be very interesting to see what happens. He's an Academy Award. People forget about this. Jared Leto is an Academy Award-winning actor. Okay? He's an Academy Award-winning actor. So he has the chops to play whatever he wants. Okay? Russell Crowe is a 2-time Academy Award winner for A Beautiful Mind and Gladiator. Okay? I mean, you take a look at Russell Crowe's career, the last 4 movies he's done, it hasn't been so hot. Okay? He's done, the Thor Love and Thunder cameo. He's done the poker movie. I didn't want to say Poker Face, but that's not it. He's done the Poke's Exorcist, and now he's done this. So, there's something to be said about that. Anyway, so I'm really happy you enjoyed Morbius, Dad. I really am. So, getting back to this. As you made mention, Warner Brothers need to come back. They are in serious, serious trouble. They're in serious trouble right now. And they have to really wonder what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. Because here's the thing. I think that this only making $55.7 million opening weekend hurt it dramatically. Okay? Because the fact is that they don't have any other... I mean, their next thing is coming out in August. And you've got to wonder, where do they go from here? Where do they go from here? Because they don't have anything else in the pipeline to really juice it up. It's not like they've got a something to throw on Max, in the interim. Okay, so now you're waiting a couple of months. This is not good at all, and I think that, look, even if this takes a 50% drop next week, and I'm being generous, but let's say 50%, you're talking about this movie making $24-25 million. That's it. In 2 weeks, it will have made $80 million domestic. And, whatever it makes overseas. This is going to be lucky to hit $400 million. Okay? I wouldn't be shocked to see this go on, put on pre-order. That's how badly. This is almost like a Fast X situation. I mean, Fast X was, that was on, iTunes for pre-order in 3 weeks. That's what this could be. It really could, because they need to get as much money as they can. As far as Zaslav saying what he said, with all due respect, the man doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay? He doesn't know what he's talking about. James Gunn is a much better filmmaker, and he has been in the game for over 20 years. He knows what he's doing. Okay? My question is this, and maybe everybody, down here in the chat and everybody else in the comments can actually tell me this. What happens if in 2025 or 2026, if Superman Legacy fails? That's my question. Because if it fails, they are in serious trouble. And this is why James Gunn is taking the reins and directing this first film himself. Because he doesn't want any screw-ups. Okay? I think it's going to be fascinating. I really do. So, but this not making even a quarter of its budget back, I mean, it's going to be lucky to hit $500 million overseas, $400 to $500 million. And what do you do? Now, let's be frank. I want to say one other thing, too. And I see your comments. I'll get to them in just a minute, guys. I want to be crystal clear about something. This movie was always going to lose money. Okay? This movie was always going to lose money because it was one of those things where, whether it was the Battlestar and Miller, okay, or it was the storyline or whatever, this was always going to lose money. It's just a matter of how much money was it going to lose. So I think they're in trouble. Warner Brothers has got to do some serious soul searching, and now it's on James Gunn. I didn't blame him for this movie because, look, this was not in his regime, okay? And I think the multiple endings that they had and the poor CGI and everything, I would love, and I've said this before, I think it's fascinating because we look at film, at least I do, we look at the here and now, and we look at it 5, 6, 7, 10 years from now. I'll be curious to see in 5 years how this is received. Because if this is received, this could be one of those films that's a cult following, okay? Like a Rocky Horror Picture Show or Wet Hot American Summer or Devil's Advocate or one of those kind of films. But it didn't do well in the theaters. So and by 5 years from now, they should have everything with Creature Commandos, and they should have, the Batman 2 out, even though that's an Elseworld. They need a couple of big, big home runs here. So I'll be curious to see what happens. And like I said, if I had to make a dollar bet on what it's going to make next week, it's going to be around $25 million. Now, I always said that there's a chance it doesn't even win next weekend. That is a distinct possibility. So I had always said there were 3 films that were going to win 2 weekends. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, which it did, it won the 5th and the 12th. The Flash, okay, and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. and we got a story about that coming up. But it may not. The Flash may not even win next weekend because while Elemental really took a dive opening weekend, Bob Chapek and Disney had really accustomed people to watching films on Disney Plus, whether it was Turning Red or whether it was Soul or whatever it was. So trying to get them back in the theaters, even though Spider-Verse just came out, it's very difficult to get them back in there. So we'll see what happens with this. I'm fascinated. Anyways, guys, what did you think about the Flash's opening weekend? Do you think it was too low? How many times have you seen it? Will you go back and see it again? When do you think this is going to come on VOD? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so let's get to a couple of these comments here real quick. Antonio says, rewatched The Flash again today in theaters. Had a bigger blast than the second time around. Really sad about how the film is performing at the box office. Yeah. I mean, look, this is a people forget, this is a $250 million film. I mean, I think that gets a little, I think that does not in people's minds because they're just going there to watch it. I'm so happy that you had a great time again. I really am. That being said, congratulations. I'd be curious, though. Did you see it in IMAX or 2D? I'd be curious about that. Let me know about that, Antonius. And Dad says, I think Sony is taking the lumps with their fan reactions, but their plan will cultivate into a huge Sinister Six movie. People always have negative views to new character introduction movies. You know what? I was thinking the same thing, Dad. I was thinking the same thing. Now, I could see that very easily. I don't know if Craven is part of the Sinister Six, so I don't know about that. But I do think that look, as long as they're able to make references to Spider-Man, and if you've seen the trailer already, you know what I'm talking about. And this, obviously, with spoilers, but you see little spiders coming down. And then the last shot of it is, he's like, oh, my name is Rhino. And, of course, that's one of the villains of Spider-Man. So, I mean, yeah, it would be interesting. It would be very, very interesting to see if they could culminate into that. Maybe, and this is just a maybe they're developing this villain for the new Spider-Man movie. That is a distinct possibility. That is a distinct possibility. So I'd be curious about that. So he says, I actually watched it in 2D, actually. You can watch the whole CGI. It's much better the second time around. Believe me. Yeah, I'd have to go back and see it again. I'm sure I would. I mean, I only saw it the once, so I'd have to go back and see it again. So let's move on. But we're going to stay with The Flash, okay, once again. And one of the big characters, and I talked about her in my spoiler cast, I thought she did a great job, okay, but she wasn't given enough to do, okay? And I'm talking about Sasha Calle. She was great. How they used her, I didn't care for at all, okay? And so that being said, I thought that her death, or who knows if she died, because this is the multiverse, right? I think that it's really, I didn't care for what they did with her. I enjoyed her as an actress, though. I think she was good, but they didn't give her enough to do. Anyways, the reason I bring this up is she says that the Flash was, quote, a runaway to a bigger story for Supergirl as she ponders the future of Kara Zor-El. Sasha Calle is hoping to continue to play the role of Supergirl after being introduced in the superhero movie The Flash. The Young and the Restless alum played Kara Zor-El in the DC film and expressed excitement at the prospect of continuing to tell her story in future movies. I love her so much and I feel her so deeply, she told Entertainment Tonight. I think that this movie was a runaway to a bigger story for her. For what Calle would like to see her character do, she says, I just want her to deep dive into Kara and her feelings into her day to day. I would just love to see her in regular clothes and human clothes. As a fan, the whole time I was filming, I kept thinking, what would she wear? What glasses would she wear? Holly put herself in fan shoes and noted that audiences did not get to meet her as her quote human realized self end quote as a fan that would be something very cool end quote. The future of Callie continues to play Supergirl has not been decided, but ahead of the premiere of The Flash, the former Man of Steel, Henry Cavill, gave her his stamp of approval. I asked him, "Did I make you proud? Because did Superman approve?" She said to EW. And he was like, "Absolutely, you did a phenomenal job." I think to me that meant the world because Henry Cavill's the Man of Steel to her. So um, let me just let me get to this, and I will get to that comment, Kevin. I think that she did a great job, and she's right. She didn't get enough to do in this. Okay, we only saw her maybe for 10 or 12 minutes. I may be missing the time about that, but the point is, she didn't get a lot to do, and I think that look, I think she did a great job. I think she did a great job, and I think that she should come back. And I think that was one of the plus sides of this film. And I think that being said, we might see her back with this new Supergirl movie, and I think that would be a blast to see. Um, but they have a lot. James Gunn has a lot of decisions to make, right? A lot of decisions. One of them mainly is she going to come back? Because I think it would really be detrimental to not only her but the character in James Gunn if they just had her in one movie and then wrote her off and said, "Okay, you're dead." I think they need to bring her on for multiple um, pictures to really get that emotional connection. And she's already thinking ahead. Okay, it's I'm going to equate it to this. It's like the Batman. Okay, we see a lot of Batman in the Batman movie. Okay, there was only about 4 or 5 scenes with Bruce Wayne. Okay, you had the beginnings. You had the scene with couple scenes with Alfred. You had the funeral scene. Okay, but 85 to 90% of that movie was the Batman. The whole third act was the Batman. Okay. That being said, this is the same thing. We're seeing everything we saw is with Supergirl. We didn't get to see her as a human, and I think that would be really interesting. And she sounds like she's got some really cool ideas for it. Um, I'm really interested in that. So let's get to what Antonia said. People are overhyping. Oh, Mission Impossible. Let me get to that comment. That's going to actually be the next story, Kevin. So let me get to that in a minute. I will definitely do that. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things where I think she has her head screwed on straight. I think she knows what she wants to do with the character. I think it would be a really, really good idea for DC to keep her. Anyways, guys, what do you think about this? Did you enjoy her as Supergirl? Would you like to see her come back to play a Supergirl in her standalone film? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay. So we're moving right along here. So actually, the next story is actually what Kevin was just talking about. And there was some big news that happened, and it's happening right now over in Rome. And that is the world premiere of what I consider to probably be the biggest movie this summer. And that is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I've been hyping this movie so much. And no, I'm not getting paid by Paramount, guys. But I think that this is going to be huge. And just because there's so many reasons. Number one, this is the first film in the last couple of films for the franchise, I believe. Number two, it is Tom Cruise, and he has that goodwill from Maverick. And number three, this has been around for a long, long time. And right now, we are starting to get films that are not doing well. And I think Mission Impossible is going to be one of those films that really takes off. So he actually, at the premiere, um, she Cruise actually came out and he made a statement. And he says that he's always going to fight for big theaters. Okay, at the world premiere, he said this. Tom Cruise made an impassioned speech about cinema going from Rome's Spanish Steps at the world premiere of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. There is a community that we are all a part of, different cultures and ways of life. We are all joined together to enjoy cinema, Cruise said, dressed in a crisp blue suit with wearing aviator glasses. It's something that I grew up with that made me and inspired me to dream and travel the world. My goal since I was little was to make movies and travel, and not just be a tourist, but work in that world and understand that culture. Throughout through my movies, I've been able to have that because everyone has allowed me to entertain them. It's my privilege that I have never taken for granted. It's my passion to entertain, and I will always fight for big theaters and that kind of experience for everyone. Cruise also paid tribute to his Mission Impossible director, Chris McQuarrie, who had called his Helmer his quote, creative brother. He has had a hand in every single film I've made over the past 16 years, Cruise declared. Uncredited, he wrote Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. He had a hand in editing and writing every single scene that I've done. He is my creative brother and an exceptional human being. Cruise, who reprises his role as Ethan Hunt, Paramount's latest tentpole, added, "I want to thank Rome and the city, and we've got to film in Venice, which was extraordinary during some very difficult times in this country. I dreamed of coming here and sharing it with you." The seventh installment of the Mission Impossible franchise was partly filmed in the Italian capital, where the cobblestone streets are the pavement perfect for drifting cars, burning rubber, and numerous hair-raising chases that are likely to go down in action film history. The Spanish stairs at the Plaza de España in the setting of a wild car chase involving a massive Hummer chasing a little vintage Fiat 500 driven by Cruise and Haley Atwell were handcuffed. On those very steps, Cruise, who spent the weekend in Rome ahead of the world premiere where crowds were chanting his name. Cruise came to Italy with director McQuarrie and an ensemble returning talent, including Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, and Vanessa Kirby on the red carpet. Franchise newcomers Haley Atwell, Palm Telemoff, Shea Wiggum, and Greg Tarzan Davis were also among who made the trek to the Eternal City for the launch. Atwell, who plays, and I want to go into this because it's kind of little, I won't say a little spoilish, but it gives about her character. She does go on to say, though, "I was handcuffed to Tom Cruise, who was in the passenger seat. Both Wade and Tom said, 'We want you to go in the front of this monument, do some 360 donuts, drift in, drift out, dodge cars, and keep going.' During this feed, Atwell was told that, quote, 'Tom's going to be suggesting lines for you where he's going to be acting as Ethan, but you can give him moments of direction, like turn left or slow down,' she said. So Atwell's challenge as she was drifting was to work out, is Tom a producer telling as Haley to slow down because something is unsafe, or is he Ethan telling Grace to slow down? It was an amazing day," she said. After it was all over, McQuarrie took her out to lunch and said, "Tom put his life in your hands today. That's no small thing." By contrast, Palm Kalinoff, who played one of the villains, didn't train at all for the scenes, which she drove the Hummer in pursuit of the yellow Fiat as it came darted down the staircase. So it basically, it's and then it goes on to say that it's going to be released on July 12th. So yeah, this movie looks unbelievable. I can't wait to see it. I've been the biggest cheerleader for this movie, and I wanted to get to a couple of the comments real quick. So Kevin says, people are overhyping Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning and may have been a better domestic. It may have had a better domestic film box office debut than previous films upcoming like Barbie and Oppenheimer will cut it into the box office. Look, I think that, and it's interesting because there was a story that came out last week about that thing, okay? Number one, that Oppenheimer was taking a lot of the um, IMAX screens that Mission Impossible was going to be getting. So Mission Impossible is only going to be getting 1 week in IMAX, okay, which is big. But it's said that Barbie might out the tracking at this time was saying that Barbie is going to outdo Oppenheimer, which is I understand why. Okay, number one, it's a 3 hour film. Okay, people are not going to want it. It's going to be very difficult to sit through a 3 hour film, even if it's Christopher Nolan. Number two, the subject matter. People don't know who Oppenheimer is. Okay, and number three, when you have other films like a Mission Impossible, like a Barbie that has had so much curiosity, there is going to be room there to have that happen. Now, I will say one thing. They are so confident, Paramount is so confident about this that they moved this up 2 days. Okay. So they're going to get the Wednesday and the Thursday. Okay. Um, I look, I think that this is going to do really well opening weekend. I mean, I mean, it's hard to say right now because we don't know what Indiana Jones is going to do, right? I think it's going to do well with the older crowd. I think right now we're in the nostalgic phase of filmmaking. People love seeing older, reminiscent type of people on screen. I mean, whether you're talking about Michael Keaton, or you're talking about, Harrison Ford, or even so this guy down here in the bottom right hand corner, guys, okay, actually, for people who are familiar with the franchise, he played Kittredge in the first film in 1996. He was the villain. Okay, so they know what they're doing. They're bringing him back 26 years later, and it's phenomenal to see. They have a lot of things they're doing. Um, I really, I can't wait for this movie, and the fact that they, Tom Cruise had actually said that they're actually starting the film Dead Reckoning Part Two, and they're, you know, his words. He can't say anything else about it. There might be something else in the works. So, and that all being said, I think that this is going to be fantastic. Um, I think it has a shot to do close to $100 million opening weekend. No joke, because by that time, okay, you're talking about Indiana Jones being out for 2 weeks. You're going to have that lull for a couple of weeks. And I think people are going to want it, they're chomping at the bit again. And I think this is that perfect action movie that is going to drive people to the box office. So, yeah, I mean, the fact, and look, I'll say one more thing about Cruise is this. He doesn't care about money. He doesn't care about fame. He doesn't care about anything like that. All he wants to do is do it right, because he knows when it's done right, you have a film like Top Gun Maverick that makes over $1.3 billion. Okay. If that one had been shot with some CGI in it, and there was a little CGI for the skin for a couple of the planes, truth be told. But if those flying sequences had been done, um, just with CGI, you wouldn't have gotten the same reaction. That was all visceral. That was all practical. They were in there, and he was the one with the cinematography and everything else. That's why it got nominated for Best Picture, right? I mean, he has all the money in the world. He doesn't have to do all this. I mean, all you guys have to do is go on YouTube and type in Dead Reckoning, um, Paramount Pictures, Dead Reckoning Part 1 motorcycle jump. And there's a whole 9-minute sequence of how that motorcycle jump at the very end of the very first trailer was done. It's incredible. I mean, he brought in some of the best scientists in the world because he wanted to get it right. That's Tom Cruise in a nutshell. So, anyways, what do you guys think about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1? Is this something that you're going to go see opening weekend, or are you going to wait to go see it, or are you going to wait until this hits Paramount Plus? What do you think about Tom Cruise as an actor? Do you think he's a good actor? Do you like his dramatic roles better? What is some of your favorite Tom Cruise films? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay. So, as I do this, let's get to a couple of these little comments here. Kevin says Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny is going to make money. Oh no, it's going to make a lot of money. It is going to make a lot of money, Kevin. No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on that front. And it's going to make a ton of money. You're spot on that. So the thing is, okay, nostalgia, as I was just saying, seems to be the go-to thing right now. I mean, whether you have the Flash with the multiverse and those cameos, or whether you have, Harrison Ford coming back as Indiana Jones, or you have, Michael Keaton coming back, or whatever it is. It's one of those things where that is what's ruling the box office right now. And so I'm really curious, to be absolutely honest. I'm really curious to see how much money that's going to make, because I don't think it's going to completely bust, but I think it's going to be hard. I mean, because once again, these budgets are huge. And I think that when you have that, it's one of those things where you don't know what's going to happen to it. So, yeah. So Antonia says she was amazing as Supergirl. I really felt for her. I was hoping we would see her again. Yeah, no, I do too. I think we will. If I had to put $1 down on that, Antonius, I would say we're going to see her again, because I think that she did such a good job on that. So that all being said, though, so Antonia says, nostalgia is a great thing in my opinion. It's always great seeing another adventure with your heroes. No, look, I'm in total agreement with you. Nostalgia is great when it's done right. I mean, heck, we've even seen cameos, all you gotta do is go back to look at No Way Home, So, I mean, it's one of those things where, when the story is done right, it's $1 billion thing. So, let us move on to the next story. And this is about the overseas box office. So we have the domestic one here, and then we have the overseas box office. So we were just talking about Indiana Jones, actually. So two of the biggest films that are still yet to come out, okay, are Barbie and Indiana Jones. And I think it's going to be a fascinating thing to see what happens with this. So according to Variety, the European box office expects a strong comeback with Oppenheimer, Indiana Jones, and Barbie. So this comes to us from Variety. The walls of Barcelona's International Convention Center might soon once again rattle with the 4,000 European exhibitors, suppliers, and service providers in town for Cine Europe trade show. So that's like a CinemaCon here. And breathe out a collective sigh of relief. At the root of such succor at Europe's most encouraging box office admissions, which is marked with a quick uptick in late of 2022 and has continued to rise into the new year. I think this edition will be very much about celebrating, because 2022 was a much better year than 2021, said Laura Holgate, CEO of the International Union of Cinemas. So that's kind of like NATO here, the National Organization of Theater Owners, which tends to be the needs of cinema trade associations and exhibitors over the continent. What's more, the numbers for the first quarter of 2023 have left everyone in a very good mood. Organized by the Film Expo Group and running from June 19th to the 22nd, the Barcelona trade show will bring together operators and exhibitors and for a diverse set of territories, all lifted by the same rising tide. Whereas early 2023 admissions in Germany, Norway, and Finland have come with percentage points of being equivalent to pre-pandemic figures. Receipts in France, Austria, and the Netherlands have been based off the 2017 to 2019 numbers by at least 2%. With the robust performances of blockbusters such as Avatar: The Way of Water and the Super Mario Brothers movie, they definitely played a role, not at least pushing analysts to Gower Street to amend their 2023 global box office by 10% this past April. She went on. She also credits strong domestic stats in France, Germany, and Finland as key drivers. It is imperative that we keep a constant flow of content coming in our cinemas. We must have, we must make sure to avoid any empty months. Summer slate presentations from Studio Canal, Warner Brothers, Sony Pictures, Universal, Paramount, and Disney will hopefully see that, alongside with a handful of screenings that is still yet to be confirmed. She tells Variety that those upcoming slates include Oppenheimer, Disney's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and Paramount's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. And they've all got members of buzzing. Everyone is extremely excited for Barbie. There's huge hype. The pandemic shutdowns fading in the rearview mirror, with international travel restrictions lifted and local inhibitors no longer qualifying for the optimistic as being cautious. This year's Europe, Cine Europe, and promised to be the significantly higher attendance, more than a few years previous. So it basically goes on to say that they're going to do very well, and these are the two films that everybody is looking forward to. And I think that that's a big thing. That's a big thing because when you have these, Barbie is one of these films that is so fascinating because it's one of those things where you don't know what, I mean, you know what it's about, but you're still wanting to see it. So, because you never thought you'd see a live action Barbie, right? I mean, we've seen G.I. Joe, we've seen Transformers, but never in your wildest dreams did you ever think we were going to see a Barbie. So, and, you know, as you were talking about, Antonius, about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, this is going to be good to see Harrison Ford reprise his role. I think it's going to be a fun movie. I think people are going to, you know, you've got a lot of the characters coming back. From what I understand, there's a couple cameos in it. Not big cameos, character cameos within the franchise. So that's something to be said. I think that if Europe is getting excited about this, because don't forget, guys, as much as I swoon over box office numbers here, it's all overseas too. We are making films for overseas. We're not making them from here. We do to a certain extent. But all this stuff, this is why I say, you know, in a perfect world, you want about a 50-50 split. All this stuff's going overseas. And I think that's a big thing. It's how much money can you make in Germany, in Austria, Japan, all these other countries, right? So, because if it doesn't do well here, they always have that as a fallback. And I think there's a big thing to be said there. So the fact that there's so much hype around Barbie, this is really going to be a surprising opening weekend for it. I believe, you know, and I'm one of the people that the naysayers originally. So I think it's going to do well. Now I don't know how well, but I think that, you know, this could score. Look, if this scores a 50 if this could make more than The Flash, that's a win. That's a win. And that just goes to show you when it's done properly, okay, you're going to make a lot of money. So the thing that's holding Dial of Destiny back, okay, is that the budget had such a high price tag. Okay, $280 million. That's a big price tag. Okay. I mean, you had Fast 10 that hit over 300 earlier this year, but I mean, there's so much that movie's got to make $800 million just to break even. There's no way that's going to do that. That's a film, I think, which you're going to see because a lot of people won't want to go to the theater. I think that you're going to see that on VOD very, very fast. I think Barbie is going to do the full theatrical run. I think Oppenheimer is going to do the full theatrical run. And that's going to actually make way for Oppenheimer to make more money. Okay, it's not going to blow up, but it's going to definitely make more money because the cast is stacked. The cast is absolutely stacked when you look at it. You've got Cillian Murphy. This will be his 5th picture with Christopher Nolan. Okay, he's done Inception. He's done Batman Begins. He was briefly in The Dark Knight. Okay, so this is his first lead role with Nolan. You've got Emily Blunt, who's a great actress. I mean, Edge of Tomorrow, all that. You've got Matt Damon, who's just established. Okay, there's no other word to call it. He's established. The list goes on and on and on and on. So I think it will be fascinating to see. So anyways, guys, what do you guys think about hearing this news about the European market? Is this good news for the overall box office? Or do you think that they should just be weighing their options a little bit more? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so I never like to end. I mean, we got 2 more stories, but I never like to end on a downer note because that's just not me. I'm not that type of person. So, but I will say this, that speaking of box office, speaking of numbers, okay, the global box office is something that everybody looks at as something to say, how did the movies do this year? Okay, as a whole, not just domestic but international. And so we have not hit double digits in the global box office until 2019. And of course, the pandemic set us back quite a bit. With all these films coming out that's making all this money, okay, we're still not there. We're still not in a place where you go to a film like The Flash and it's packed. I mean, that should have been packed, okay? The Batman was good, but not great. What I mean by that is the theatrical run. Yes, it did make $770 million overseas, but we're not all the way back, guys. And according to this report from the THR, okay, we're not going to get all the way back until 2027. Okay? So as I said, this comes from the THR. How will the global box office look years from now? Accounting from PwC's annual Global Entertainment and Media Outlook contains forecasts for 2023 through 2027 across a variety of different industry sectors, including some noteworthy projections for cinema revenue, both in terms of box office and in terms of movie theater advertising. Among them, global cinema admissions will reach $7.2 billion or $7.2 billion in 2027, a lower level than pre-pandemic in 2019. Now you have to remember 2019 was Endgame, so take that with a grain of salt, which counted for around 7.9 billion in admissions. But helped by higher ticket prices, global cinema revenue will finally reach pre-COVID numbers levels by 2025, when it's projected to hit $46.5 billion, followed by further growth to 52.1 in 2027. Plus, China will, quote, lead in global total cinema for much of the forecast period, end quote. Now you have to remember, too, China is the number 1 box office market in the world, hitting box office revenue of $13.2 billion in 2027, compared to a forecast of 11.9 for North America. The 2 cinema giant markets have in recent years been jockeying for the top position. Despite the admissions prediction, the overall forecast of the global cinema revenue return to pre-pandemic levels will be likely to seen as welcome news in Hollywood, even though some will have hope for a faster pace of recovery. Also in 2025 will mark the recovery when global box office will overtake the 2019 tallies of $39.4 billion to hit nearly $43 billion after reaching $38.8 billion in 2024. The U.S. trend line is somewhat different from the global curve. Box office revenue in the United States reached $6.9 billion in 2022. So there were a couple of billion-dollar films, okay? Multiverse of Madness made around 950. I mean, call that a billion. You had $3 billion films, okay? You had Jurassic World, Dominion, you had Top Gun Maverick, and you had something else, Avatar: The Way of Water. Even though it had started its run in 2023 or 2022. It's still so. Avatar: The Way of Water. It's interesting. So Avatar: The Way of Water is, and by the way, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Actually, I think it is 2021. But even though it ran into 2023, Avatar: The Way of Water is still considered a 2022 picture. So you take that full revenue. So there were 3 films to make over $1 billion. Let's see. The U.S. trend line is somewhat different. Okay. The firm also sees good news for the United States. That figure is expected to go further into 2023 and continue edging upwards for the forecast period. By 2025, box office is predicted to exceed $10 billion, regularly achieved by the pre-pandemic era. In 2026, the forecast calls for United States box office of $10.7 billion, up from $10.2 billion in 2025. Now, guys, I know there are a lot of numbers here, okay? But basically what it's saying is that, as I said, so last year there were 3 films, okay? It was Dominion, it was Top Gun Maverick, and it was Avatar: The Way of Water. So it basically goes on to talk about all of the different things and what is supposed to happen over the next couple of years. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens because, okay, I see your comments and I'll get to them in just a minute, guys. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because, okay, we have the strike. And the strike, okay, is really going to set things back. We have, there was a report done much earlier this year that said we could have 7 legitimately before everything, 7 $1 billion movies. Obviously, that didn't happen. But that all being said, okay, we're still not there. And it's going to be fascinating to see with the pushback of all of these movies, okay? I mean, don't forget, Disney just came out last week and said we're pushing back Avatar franchise, we're pushing back the Star Wars franchise, and we're pushing back the Marvel franchise. Okay? So that's why they're able to make these predictions. Okay? Because previous results often dictate future outcomes. Meaning, if this film made $1 billion, it's likely, not definite, but likely that this film is going to make $1 billion too. When you have an Endgame and you have a Infinity War make that much money, okay, they can likely predict that a Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars could do that too. So Disney is going to be making a lot of money over the next 5 to 6 years. And that's why they can extrapolate this all the way out to 2027 because they see all the releases, okay? I mean, yes, you have Superman Legacy supposed to be coming out in 2025. Now, that's not going to be a $1 billion film. I would be shocked if it was. What I will say is that's probably going to get pushed back into 2026 because of the writer's strike, even though Gunn's got this done now. Okay, he wrote the script himself. There's a lot of different moving pieces here. China is the number one. People don't realize this. China, and obviously, they have the largest population in the world. China is the number one box office market in the world. So when we see this, and when I'm always talking about numbers and spewing this stuff out, it's not just the here and now. That's what these studios depend on. They depend on, places like China, Germany, Japan, Austria, UK, because it's not just here, it's worldwide. And that's a big, big thing for them. So, yeah, but it's fascinating to hear them say we're not going to be a full recovery until 2027. Don't forget, the reason why 2019 was so huge, we had Avatar, or not Avatar, I got Avatar in the mind. We had Avengers. We had Avengers Endgame. And we had Black Panther that made $700 million. I mean, that was a $1 billion film. So 2019 was a big, big year. Anyways, what do you guys think about these numbers about not being fully back all the way until 2027 global box office? Does this worry you? Or do you think that this is right on par with everything? Do you think these new Disney films are going to help that get over that hump? Which films do you think are going to actually make that happen? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so before we go on to our final story, let's hit a couple of these. Comments. This year and next year need to be huge, and the strike will have a huge effect on the years from now. Absolutely, Dad. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is why you're seeing these things get pushed back. So when you see all these pushbacks, okay, I mean, don't forget, Blade's been pushed back 3 times. The Thunderbolts, even though that was still filming, got pushed back, shut down production, okay? I think that's in post, but still. Kang Dynasty, we don't know what's going on. That got pushed back. Secret Wars got pushed back. Avatar, the last Avatar is not going to come out until 2031, okay? 8 years from now. So, of course, that's why they're able to do that. And I totally agree with you. So not only did you have COVID shut down the industry for close to 6 months, I always have said that it's one of those things where for every day we were in COVID, it was going to take 2 days to recover. For every day of the strike, it's going to take 2 days to recover. So if this is a 6-month strike, it's going to take at least a year to rebound. At least a year, if not more. Because even though we have films like The Batman coming out in October of next year, and Joker coming out, and all these other films, it's still not going to be the same as it once was. And obviously you have prices and, inflation and all that stuff. So that's definitely understandable. Antonio says, speaking of box office, one film that was unfortunately a big flop was Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And I was thinking, what's your opinion toward the film? Personally, I thought it was a great film. Okay. Truth be told, I haven't seen it. But what I can say is this, that I think that when you make a film, okay, and it's a success, okay, it doesn't matter if it's Star Wars or Jaws or whatever it is, okay, or Avengers or whatever. When you make a good film, okay, when you are coming back to do a sequel, it is so much more difficult. It's exponentially difficult because the expectation is there, right? So, I mean, and I said this the other day, there are only maybe 8 or 9 or 10 sequels that I can think of off the top of my head that are better than the originals, okay? I mean, The Godfather 2 is right a little bit better than The Godfather because it is a prequel type of film, okay? Empire Strikes Back, it's one of the greatest sequels ever made. Hands down, twice on Sunday, and I actually did that for the Perfect Movies. Go check that out. That got released in May. That is a perfect movie in my respect, and it's a sequel. The Dark Knight. What Christopher Nolan was able to do with The Dark Knight, unparalleled. It literally fundamentally changed cinema, okay? We went from 5 Best Picture nominees to 10 that next year. Okay, sorry about that, guys. The StreamYard likes to act up sometimes. I'm gonna contact them after the stream. Anyways, getting back to what he's saying, when you have a film like Shazam that does really, really, really well, and it's a hit, to actually make another follow-up film to have that same success is very difficult. I said that, you know, the Flash was, Shazam 2 was going to be a litmus test. You had that whole thing happen with The Rock. That didn't help matters much. I think it fell flat. Um, and so I think Shazam 2 is going to be one of those films that we're going to look at 5 years from now and go, that wasn't a bad movie. It just got, it was just in it. And don't forget, here's something else. Don't forget about this, Antonius, that that came out right in March, too. You had Creed 3 come out, and that was a huge hit. So people were really kind of on the fence. Do I go see Creed 3 or do I go see Shazam? Even though they had seen a good Shazam movie. So, um, moving on. I guess we need more films like The Way of Water, Top Gun Maverick, Super Mario Brothers, and No Way Home to turn it pre-2020. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So the one thing that all those four films had in common is they all had fantastic stories. Now, truth be told, Super Mario is that's I mean, Kevin was talking about nostalgia earlier. That's a film that everybody knows, right? And two of those four films were not only nominated for Best Picture, but they were sequels. Okay? When you do a story right, when you do a story top notch, that's when you can get a lot of money. Avatar actually made money. Now, I'm not talking about, of course, it's number 3 all the time. I'm talking about once it was in theaters, it actually earned 7% more. Okay? It was one of the fastest movies to $500 million, a billion. And No Way Home, okay, was not only a good story, but it used cameos and nostalgia perfectly. And Maverick, that had been a movie that everybody had wanted to be seeing for 20 or 30 years. And the story goes that actually McQuarrie, okay, or not McQuarrie, Joseph Kaczynski flew over to Paris when they were, and he was going to talk to Tom Cruise. And Chris says, you've got a half an hour to talk to him. And he pitched him Top Gun Maverick. And by the time he was done, he had a direct line to the CEO of Paramount, and he called him and he said, we're making Top Gun Maverick. And he said, done. That's, clout. And what ended up happening, okay, he said, I have one caveat. Val Kilmer has to be in it. And of course, you have that emotional scene with him. But it's one of those things where it's so. Unfortunately, in today's society, we monetize everything. And look, I'm guilty of this too. Okay. If it doesn't make $1 billion, it's a bad. That's not necessarily true. Because there have been plenty of movies that have made crap money, but are really good movies. And they're on the flip side of it, there have been movies that have made a lot of money that are crap. So it's all relative in that respect. Can James Gunn and Superman Legacy turn the tables when it comes to the box office for DC? I really hope so. I honestly, I don't know. I like Gunn's chances. I'll give him that. I because James Gunn knows how to basically write a story. He knows how to make you care about a story, character, and as I said before, this is why he's doing the first one himself, because he doesn't want anybody screwing it up. And that being said, I think that he realizes that. And that's why he's putting so much weight on this first one. Especially with the disaster that is now known as the Flash. So, I mean, and look, even though Blue Beetle is supposed to be the first character in his whole DCU, it's nobody knows about it. Nobody knows, unless you're a comic book geek, nobody knows about Blue Beetle, or very few people do. So, In 2019, you went, yeah, absolutely. Hey, Meadow, how are you? No, absolutely. Absolutely. Joker. And I totally forgot about Joker. I totally forgot about Joker. And that was one of those movies that I love Joker. And so that's a thing. Like, so couple of things. Number one, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel and Black Panther. Okay. So Ike Perlmutter, who had been with that side of Disney and Marvel for many years, did not ever want to see those movies made. When they did get made, they blew up for $1 billion each. You know, we've got the Marvels coming out in November. Wakanda Forever came out last November. They're $1 billion movies. $1 billion. Far From Home, absolutely. Every single one of the Spider-Man movies, because they were done well, blew up. Okay, and Joker was just an amazing characterization, and Todd Phillips was outstanding in that. There's a reason why Joaquin Phoenix won the Academy Award for Best Picture. So, speaking of Disney, okay, and that's a perfect segue, Antonio. Speaking of Disney, so last week there was kind of a shakeup. Okay, so we had the CFO of Disney, okay, Christina McCarthy, step down due to medical reasons, and that kind of threw a wrench into not only Disney, but what's going on with Iger and how long is he going to be there? Because I don't think he wanted to be there any longer than he had to. Okay, I think he'd like to just sit on a beach somewhere with a pina colada or a margarita and just enjoy his retirement. But he's having to bail out Disney again. Um, so this comes actually from the Wrap. Okay, and this is talking about um, this is actually talking about his the lack of sorry guys. Okay, so this is actually talking about the sudden exit of the CFO. Okay, who's pictured there on the left. Okay, the sudden departure of Disney Chief Financial Officer Christine McCarthy from her role, citing family medical leave, poses complications for both filling that role permanently and successive plans to install a new CEO to replace Bob Iger, according to Wall Street analysts and industry experts. McCarthy, McCarthy's exit uh, is a domino effect that only prolongs the search for her replacement until Iger is able to choose a successor, but may push the chief executive to extend his contract beyond his initial 2 years in order to ensure that the company is stable. It slows everything in the near term because they have to do a search for a new CFO, which has to include external parties. Laura Martin, senior entertainment and internet analyst at Needham and Company, told the Wrap. So there's a lot. So a lot of times to replace a CFO of this caliber, it takes a year. McCarthy, who had been well respected on Wall Street and a close lieutenant of Iger, was tapped as CFO in 2015. She has helped the entertainment giant navigate through milestones like the launch of Disney Plus in 2019 and challenges including the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. A proxy fight with activist investor Nelson Pretz, the company's ongoing restructure is designed to cut $5.5 billion in costs, which they have been trying to do over the course of this year, in a legal battle with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. According to the WSJ, the Wall Street Journal, she's also played a major role in the ousting of former CEO Bob Chapek, paving the way for Iger's return as CEO in November. The Journal reported on Friday that McCarthy has since butted heads with Iger and other top executives over the company's spending on content and restructuring strategy. In May, McCarthy said Disney planned to spend around $30 billion on content in 2023, but noted that could change depending on the impact of the Writers Guild strike. He's been a straight shooter since with the sell side and buy side, and a strong operator for the upcoming focus on the DTC direct-to-consumer margin improvement, while interim CFO Kevin Lansbury is not, quote, well known by Wall Street, end quote. Wells Fargo's Stephen Cahill said in this statement on Friday to clients. So Lansbury, who is a Disney veteran with over 35 years of experience in finance, business development, alliances, and operations, most recently served as executive vice president and chief financial officer of the Parks, Experiences, and Products division. He will inherit a host of challenges with his predecessor when he assumed McCarthy's position on July 1st. At $93 a share, we think investors will see more risk than opportunities in the medium term for Disney. These include park growth softening from a macro, including pricing, wage inflation, two-time and outlook to DTC margin improvement, arguably the biggest issue. 3, the impact of taking ESPN fully DTC, which is direct-to-consumer, plus the NBA. And 4, the purchase of the minority stake in Hulu. Separately, there are speed bumps to the stock. Together, there are obstacles. McCarthy will continue as a strategic advisor through the end of her contract of June of 2024 and assist with the process of identifying and onboarding a long-term successor to ensure a smooth and successful transition. When Disney reports its third quarter earnings in the fiscal 2023 in August, Wells Fargo expects that she and Lansbury will share the CFO role and deliver, quote, limited new long-term info, end quote, with investors and analysts on the conference call. Additionally, Disney will hold an investors summit in Orlando on the 18th to the 20th of September, which Cahill expects will offer far more color. So more Bob Iger basically talks about, so Ann Murphy, basically what he's talking about is this. Because of McCarthy's leaving, that it's going to come down to him having to stay an extra year. And so the fact is, this is interesting that he's coming from the parks and recreation side of it, because that's where Chapek came from, right? That's where Bob Chapek came from. People don't realize that. He was the head of the Department of Parks and Recreation. That's exactly where he came from. So the fact that she is butting heads with Iger over spending, I mean, look, Chapek is the person that put them in this situation. Okay. Call a spade, whether it was, the direct to streaming for Disney Plus, okay, with all those movies, whether it was a disaster of Scarlett Johansson for Black Widow, okay, whether it was lying to investors, okay, about having this be better, or everything else. So she was the one that basically helped her out. And Kevin says quickly right here, Disney can survive without Bob Iger. Look, Bob Iger is a business genius. He is a business genius, okay? He ran Disney for almost 15 years or 16 years, acquiring Pixar, acquiring Fox, acquiring all of these major companies. Look, he got Marvel, okay? We would not be talking about this if he didn't get Marvel Studios, okay? I agree with you, Kevin, that they can survive. The problem is, the last time that they put a CEO in there, okay, that was not named Bob Iger, it went down. The ship went down, okay, badly. Because you had PR blowups, you had people that were going direct to streaming, you had things that, look, some of these movies were fantastic, like Turning Red and Soul and everything else. They're fantastic movies. But when you're putting them on streaming and you're not getting any revenue back, that's why a film like Elemental crashed. That's why a film like Elemental crashed. It only made $27 million. So they have to reinvigorate that whole thing. Okay? That's why he had to cut $5 billion. Think about that. $5 billion. Okay, he's the one. Iger basically said back in March at a Merrill Lynch conference that this is why they don't want to do sequels. So I understand that because you take a look at something like Thor: Love and Thunder. That cost $250 million to make. How much did that make? 500, $600 million? It barely broke even. They don't need all that stuff. So the longer he is CEO, the better. I agree with you that they can survive without him, but it would be very, very difficult to survive without him. That being said, it's fascinating that McCarthy is the head of those services. Um, so Iger is going to be there for at least another year. He might be there for 2028, 2029. Okay, so Thor: Love and Thunder made 760. Okay, thank you for that. But still, I mean, it's one of those things where I I like Bob Iger at the helm. I do. I think Disney is safe. He knows what he's doing. I'm not saying that they don't, but there has to be a proving ground for these people. So I do find it fascinating, though, that he comes from the same thing and that she is the one that wanted Iger back in. Anyways, what do you guys think about this? That Bob Iger is probably going to have to stick around another year for this. Are you happy about this? Or do you want to see somebody else come in and assume the role of CEO? What do you think about all of the other things going on at Disney? They've had a horrible year so far. Can they recover? Or do you think this might be a sign of things to come? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so says Kathleen Kennedy isn't going anywhere. Well, yeah, I mean, that's going to depend. That comment, Kevin, is going to depend on what happens with Dial of Destiny. If Dial of Destiny does very well, okay, I agree with you. I would agree with you. She won't go anywhere. If it doesn't do well, and look, truth be told, she has 3 $1 billion films and almost 4 $1 billion films to her credit. Okay. She's one of the greatest producers of all time. However, when it comes to planning into the future, her track record isn't that good. Okay. And that's a problem. So look, I don't know what's going to be going on with that. So the rumor is that Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, is going to take over as Disney's head guy. Where did you see that, Dad? I'm fascinated. You just sparked my curiosity. By the way, I think that would be a horrible move. I don't think they would ever do something that erratic. It's got to be in-house. I'm not saying that's not true. This is rumor, as he says. I'd love to know, where did you see that? Because I would love to find that out. I'd love to read that piece. I think the least successful sequel was Quantumania. It made $476 million, I think. Or sorry, yeah, it was right around there. I think it was like 450. So I think it was around 450. You're right, Antonius. Mel says that would be crazy. Yeah, that would be up. Yeah, I don't doubt you, Dad. That's been reported on several outlets. They're best friends. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. And by the way, guys, if you haven't already, that is my Twitter handle down there. Please follow me down there. I am always talking about movies or tweeting about movies, and I'm doing spaces about movies, all that good stuff. So, couple of things. Number one, we got a big week coming up. Secret Invasion is right around the corner. Okay, it drops Wednesday night. So moving forward, what's going to end up happening is this. Shows, you guys are going to be getting a show tomorrow. You're going to be getting a show on Wednesday. Thursday, Secret Invasion Thursday, guys. We're going to be talking. We're not going to do a show. This is going to be all about Secret Invasion. So it's going to be full-blown spoilers too. Okay, no holdbacks. Full-blown spoilers. So guys, take care of that. Okay, Friday. We just had the world premiere of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 in Rome. I'm going to be doing another Mission Impossible this Friday. That's going to be Ghost Protocol. Okay. The week after that, you guys are going to be getting Rogue Nation. And then the week after that, you guys are going to be getting Fallout. And it's going to lead right up to July 12th, where it's going to be open here in the States. I might go to the one on the 10th just to get a little sneak preview. And I'll probably go on the 12th too. But nonetheless, that's going to be for that. Okay. Perfect movies. Guys, we got all these perfect movies on there. I don't know what I'm going to do for July. Leave me your thoughts. Do me a favor. If you're on Twitter, you follow me on Twitter, leave me a couple thoughts of what you might like to see for perfect movies. I'll see if I like those. And so, perfect. Thank you. We'll check that out after the show. Can't wait for Secret Invasion. Oh, yeah. I can't. Yeah, it looks amazing. Oh, happy birthday, Metal. Happy birthday. I hope everything's, I hope you're doing well. And any big plans for your birthday today? But yeah, so there's we got all this stuff coming up. Okay, we got spoiler cast coming up too. You know, Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, Disney, or Barbie, all that stuff. Also, and I know there are a couple. Dad is one, and Metal is one. So if you'd like to if you enjoy this content, you can do a few things. Number one, you can hit that like and subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way, every time I stream, you guys will get it. Number two, if you'd like to support me financially, as those guys do, and I thank you very much for it, okay, or there's a couple different ways you can do it. Number one, you can become a member, okay? And with that, it's very simple. There's a little join button there. There's 3 different levels. So you have $2.99, you have $5.99, and then you have $9.99. And then there's going to be different perks for each one of those levels, okay? Number 2, okay, you can head on over to my Patreon. And right now, okay, I started it a couple months ago, and I'm going to be recording something very soon, there's 2 different levels. There's $5 and there's $10. You got Mob Mondays, it's $5. That's a brand new mob movie that's going to be coming to you every single month, whether it's Goodfellas or Casino or Black Mass or whatever it is. So that's $5. $10 is going to get you both Mob Mondays and Rewatch Wednesdays. These are films that I haven't seen. I've seen, but I haven't seen in a while. Sit down, I'll watch them, I'll critique them, remember what I liked about them, all that stuff. So that's only exclusive to Patreon. You can't get that anywhere else. Another way you can support me, Super Chats. If you guys are watching via YouTube or whatever and you want to shoot me a couple Super Chats, fantastic, and I thank you very much. They're always welcome, by the way. I'm trying to get this thing to grow right now, and you guys are always here, and I, thank you very much. So definitely, Super Chats are another way, or the final way you can help me out is going over to the store. So we just had Father's Day yesterday, but there's a ton of things there. We've got T-shirts, we've got mugs, we've got jackets, we've got hoodies. They're all in women's and men's apparel. So guys, go pick up a T-shirt and wear that proudly. And, that's the thing. I'm trying to spread the word about this, trying to do this, and all that great stuff. And Metal says, thank you so much. Going both. Nice. Very cool. Enjoy it. Enjoy your birthday. Enjoy your birthday, Metal. But yeah, so those are the different ways you can support me. And as I said, guys, there's just a ton. And I'm trying to line up a couple interviews here and there. I'm actually I got to talk to E-Man again. I'm going to try and get him on the show. And so Metal can tell you about him. He's a phenomenal guy, movie guy. Head on over to his channel. He's amazing. He has what I want, with the viewership and the community and everything else. And yeah, and guys, there's just so much stuff coming up on the channel. So, okay. I I think that's about it for today. So, do the 3 things that you need to do: be safe, be careful, and have a great rest of the day. I will see you guys tomorrow. So, take care of yourself. And I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye bye, guys.